Over the last couple decades, there has been a major decline in the quality of technician that's in the field in the HVAC industry today. There's a couple different reasons why this has happened and also why this trend is still continuing to this day. So in this video, I'm going to be explaining the massive decline in workmanship of a technician, along with, if you're a homeowner, what to look out for. Hi, this is Kenneth with Atlas AC, and at any point during this video, if you find it to be helpful, please hit the like button, and that will really help me out with the YouTube algorithms. So like in all my videos, here's a quick disclaimer. There are still a lot of good techs in the field. However, there's just far fewer, and the trend just keeps going down, down, and down. And the reasons are we have a workforce that is struggling to keep up with all the demands, along with a poor incentive structure that most contractors use to incentivize their HVAC technicians. So let's first cover the poor incentive structure, and then afterwards I'll give you empirical data of what's going on in the workforce. There's a phrase that I hear all the time that is used by contractors that own their own HVAC business, and that is, I'd rather hire a salesman who I can train to be a technician than a technician that I try to turn into a salesman. You see, this is an asymmetry business, and what that means is I know everything about air conditioning, and you, the homeowner, knows very little. And you don't have 3 years of your life to dedicate to air conditioning to learn whether or not you're being taken advantage of. So at the end of the day, you're just going to have to simply trust the technician and what they're telling you. So if we go down the rabbit hole just a little bit deeper, and you ask the question, how does an HVAC company make money? Well, most HVAC companies are geared around making money through major repairs or replacing an HVAC system. So in their view, doing something simple like replacing a capacitor for $150, $200 is counterproductive. So what is their solution? So this falls back to how to leverage an asymmetry business. So the question that they're asking is, how do I get a homeowner to spend thousands of dollars with me, not just a couple $100s? So let me tell you a quick story. The other day I was speaking with one of our technicians, and he went into his past employment and the operations of that company that he used to work for. And he told me, well, my last job that I was working at, they would call us in every single day, all the technicians, and they would go through sales trainings and tactics and how to overcome objectives and how to sell something bigger than what needed to be sold. And he told me that they never called him in one time to learn about technical things like how to diagnose a compressor that's about to fail or a blower motor that has just gone out. And so he was just left with sales training, and that was it. So basically that company was trying to figure out a way to maximize every single service call and to get as much money out of every single person as possible. And what's crazy is we hear this all the time from many different techs who work for many different companies. And the major issue with all this is how they get paid, the incentive structure. You see, many of them are on commissions. What that means is if they don't sell you something, then they can't feed their family. Because of this, if a technician is working for this type of organization, they're kind of forced to sell because they're backed into a corner. And the biggest issue with all this is a huge number of HVAC companies have adopted this model. So you can see that there's been a big swing in the HVAC industry where they're no longer prioritizing good technicians who can diagnose a problem and fix the issue. They'd rather have a person come and work on your system and make a sell. And this is such a shame of what has happened to this industry because, the whole industry was built on the backs of good technicians, and now they're being pushed to the wayside. Now let's shift gears for a little bit and talk about the labor shortage. So if we take a look at a couple different articles to help gain some perspective here, we can start off with this one where you can pull it up. It's Fortune Business Insiders, and it's just talking about the growth rate of the industry. And if you can see here, this first little header, they're coming through their conclusions here. And they're talking about the market size in 2021 was a little over $40 billion. And this is all for the North American market here. And so the market is projected growth was $43 billion for 2022. And from 2022 to 2029 is expected to grow up to $62 billion, which here, if you look at it, it is a compounded average growth rate of 5.2% year over year for the next basically 10 years. And if you want, you can do a quick Google search yourself and just type in average growth rate of the HVAC industry. You're going to find dozens of these articles. The reason why I like this one the best is because it isolates North America, and most other articles don't do that. But this trend is growing fairly fastly. So if we look at our next article, which comes from the U.S. Bureau of Labor, we can check out what their projections are on job outlooks. So if we come over here and we look closely, so the HVAC industry is expected to grow a total of 5% from 2021 to 2031. That's right. Over the course of 10 years, the HVAC industry employment is only going to grow 5% total, even though the industry is going to grow more than 50% in that same time period. So you can see the percentage change here is we're going to only add a total of 20,000 jobs over the next 10 years. And so, and the reason for this is a lot of the young people coming up are replacing the older people who are retiring. And this is in no way a new trend. This has been happening a while now, probably more than a decade. And at this point, with the labor crunch that we're already in, it's hard to find techs because there's just fewer and fewer to go around. And this has already led to some unforeseen consequences. For example, many companies are starting to lower their standard of HVAC technicians just to keep their doors open. So some HVAC companies will hire technicians with little training experience and then put them in their own van to run service calls, even though they probably needed another few years of apprenticeship before they started running their own calls. And this trend is probably going to worsen as the labor crunch continues to intensify over the next 10 years. So you can see how these two trends have affected the quality of technician in the field. The first trend being many contractors attempting to change their business model in order to turn everybody in their organization into salesmen, along with many contractors having to settle with whatever they can get due to the tightening labor market. And again, I want to stress there are a lot of good contractors and technicians out there. It's just the dynamics in this industry have been changing for the last decade. And now time for a completely shameless plug. If you are a good technician and looking for a good company to work for, we are hiring, and we can put you up in San Antonio, Austin, or Dallas. And if you're out of state, we will help you move and help you make that transition. You can go to our website and fill out a quick application, and somebody will get in touch with you. And lastly, if you're a homeowner trying to decipher whether or not you're dealing with a good technician, there are a couple things you can look at. So in my experience, good HVAC technicians are not interested in small talk. They're interested in HVAC systems. So they'll probably talk your ear off on how your AC system's working, but they're never going to bring up what you had for dinner last night. And knowing this, it's going to make it easy to decipher whether or not you're working with a salesman who's trying to butter you up versus a good HVAC technician who's really concerned about your AC system. And lastly, if you have some concerns whether or not the diagnosis was accurate, you can always get a second or even a third opinion on your HVAC system. That's just simply one of the most inexpensive ways to ensure that you're getting good advice about your HVAC system. If you enjoyed this video, you might also want to check out our website where we have complete price lists from an actual HVAC company, along with buyer's guides that you might be interested in. Until next time, have a good one.